Well, it's a very good morning from him, and of course, it's a very good morning from me. Welcome to my live stream. Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying our summer and all the things that summer's got to offer, really, which is a lot of rain here in this. Actually, it's picking up, I think, later this month. So, be nice to see how things pan out. So, not a lot going on in the mortgage sector at the moment because it's like silly season. That's a silly season for news, by the way. But I heard something interesting over the weekend. My wife was talking to her sister, and apparently my brother-in-law listens to this podcast. So there we are. He comes home. So, hi, Salvatore. Hope you're okay. And by the way, if anybody else wants a shout out, why not? Crikey, it's a small world. And just email me, and I'll shout out your name and what you do. A bit of a promotion for you. Why not? It's just a good way of sharing our listeners and readership. Because we go out on a podcast as well as this live stream. Obviously, you know that, don't you? Let's get on to some topics, shall we? You don't want to hear me going on about things, do you? But let's get on to some topics. I got three things for you today. I want to take a look at MoneyHelper, which is I call it the new Martin Lewis, but come on to that in a second. Then I want to take a look at Persil, which is a new way of looking at client needs, and we're incorporating some new stuff in there as well, which is quite ahead of the curve. And then I want to pick up on the different types of collectives, just for the CMAT 1, because we're updating everything on CMAT 1 at the moment. So quite a bit of topic today, isn't it? Great. Okay, let's get on to my first topic for this one. And this one's all about MoneyHelper. Now, I don't know if you've come across the government department or government-funded company called MoneyHelper. But MoneyHelper is a pretty good way of educating the public, I think. And it's something to bear in mind, really, because a lot of firms like to change the way they trade. I don't know if you're aware that Subway used to be called Pete's Super Submarines, trading as Subway. And BlackBerry phones, which of course gone now, used to be called Research in Motion, trading as. And that's exactly what the government have done here. MAPS, as it used to be called, the Money Advice Pension Service, which is a hell of a name, isn't it? Is now trading as MoneyHelper. And this is quite useful for you as a mortgage advisor. If you're talking to your customer and you're chatting to them in an MOT, and you're helping them with their affordability and times are tight, etc., and they want some help on those sort of things, and they can talk to MoneyHelper, the website, and get in contact. So there's no ulterior motive there. It's government funded and it's very independent. So that's a good way of looking at it. So what have they done with it? Well, MoneyHelper is not a charity. As I said to you, it's a government funded company. And their job is to educate the general public on all things financial services. Their moral is to allow customers to make informed decisions if they wish to, based upon the information that provides. It's good quality information as well. It's accurate. It's unbiased. Everybody's got an agenda, haven't they, on the internet? And thankfully, it stopped the FCA from dabbling in educating their customers, which they were doing a few years ago. They had lots of pages of education for consumers. I don't think that went down too well with consumers. But MoneyHelper's got a better brand for it as well. It talks about all financial issues, including debt counselling, which of course at the moment is a very much sought over service. Step Change, people like that do some good debt counselling, but getting through on the phone is very difficult at the moment. So MoneyHelper is a good first step for your customers. They look at all aspects of needs as well. So that's just a quick plug, I suppose, for MoneyHelper. They have replaced, of course, all the for your technical stuff. They have replaced all of the little companies like Pensions Wise, Money Advice Service, and the Pensions Advisory Service, which used to be government departments running different parts of the sector information. They're all gone now. So I call MoneyHelper. What a great name! I think it's the new Martin Lewis, actually. I think because Martin Lewis, as you know, is very good at explaining things simply, and I think MoneyHelper wants to do the same. I hope they're not trying to rain on Martin Lewis's parade, because he does a really good job. And did you hear it? He's off on his hollybobs, his detoxing, or digital detoxing, he calls it. What else is that rubbish? He's digital detoxing. So he put a little note out to his 2.3 million social media followers. He said, beware, he said, whilst I'm on my hollybobs, he said, beware of scams. Because apparently when he's on holiday and he goes digital detox, a lot of the scammers come out and try and imitate Martin Lewis. They use AI to clone his image and his photograph and everything, pretending to be Martin Lewis because he's on holiday and he can't compete against it. So something to think about. What a world we're in. So that's Money Helper. Hope that's a good little update for you on that topic. All right, let's get away from government-run departments, shall we? Because we don't want to talk too much about the government, do we? And all politics and things. What I want to do now, though, is take a look at another topic with you, and we're going to head over to the whiteboard for this one. So let me just head over there now and pop on in. Hi, I'm over here. So how do we ensure that we explore all client needs is my topic here. Now, client needs, if you're a mortgage advisor, you're probably just looking at specific needs. If you're a financial advisor, you're probably looking at all needs. Maybe you are holistic. I don't know. Most financial advisors, if truth be told, tend to focus on key areas like investments or pensions. It's where they specialize. But if you're doing an exam, you need to think about holistic financial advice. In other words, looking at all the needs that customers have. So if you're doing CMAT 1 or you're doing DIP-FA, you need to focus on that and get away from the real world, I suppose, where everybody specializes. Now, how do you do this? Well, we've come up with a brand new way of sharing this with you, and it's all about washing clothes. Now, when I was a kid, my mum used to obviously wash my clothes, and she used to use a washing powder called Persil. I don't know if you remember Persil. I don't know if it's still around, actually. Probably is. Now, Persil had an advertising gimmick going on, and they used to say that they were the Persil washes whiter than white. I don't know what that was all about, but it was their advertising jingle, because we all had advertising jingles in the 80s. So I use Persil now to make sure that you look at all the needs that customers have. And Persil washes whiter than white or something like that. So let's take a look at fact finding and take a look at the needs people have using Persil. So let's grab this whiteboard and we'll put Persil up for you. P-E-R-S-I, and I've added an L at the end, which is brand spanking new. And I want you to think about this because it's a new angle, a new need area that I think is going to grow massively. So if you're giving holistic financial advice, then the first and most important need of all clients is protection in the event of death. Protection on death. Now, you can't stop people from dying. That's just not going to happen, is it? But you can put life assurance in place, of course, and it's the most important, underpins all financial planning. So that's the first one. The second one is earnings. In other words, you are protecting their earnings. So you're covering their earnings with income protection or some kind of critical illness. So you're covering their income, effectively, their earnings. So again, those two go hand in hand, and most mortgage advisors get involved in that area because they're mortgage and protection specialists, you see. But then we start getting into the financial advisor world. The R is for retirement planning. So retirement planning, which is all about pensions and all those things that help people to retire. Now, of course, people are getting. I was talking to my son last night. We went down the pub and we were talking about his goals and stuff. He's 26 now. And I said to you, and I said, you'll probably retire at 75, maybe even 80. He's got 50 years of working, but he will think about that because he obviously live longer than everybody else because, medical abilities improve things, don't they? So retirement planning is really important. Then we get into investments. So we get savings, first of all. So people got to save money. And then, of course, you do wealth management. You manage their existing investments. So that's about saving the money, and that's about managing investments. Of course, a lot of people inherit their own money. They don't have to save, do they? Lucky people. But that's traditional route for financial advisors. Now, the last one, here's one for you, is long-term care. There you go. Long-term care. Now, I said to you, and he'll probably retire at 75 and live on well into his 90s. But of course, people do need long-term care because it'd be like an old car, really. The car doesn't break down so much. Bits just go wrong, don't they? And people need long-term care. They'll be alive, but they may not be, fighting fit. They might need residential care. Maybe people will do. Lots of people do. It's very expensive, and I think that the population, as it gets older, will more and more people will need that. Now, the point here is that we provide planning to help people to fund their long-term care. So it's long-term care funding. Now, obviously, you can fund it through retirement planning and savings. I get all of that, but people tend to look at retirement planning to, replace their income to have a good time. Savings so they can invest the money and pass it on to the children through inheritances and stuff like that. But long-term care funding is something a lot of people probably don't look at. Oh, well, the government will pay for it, but things are changing, and I think planning for that is a key need area moving forward. And a financial advisor can do that. I mean, I'm taking some exams myself this autumn, long-term care exams from the Chartered Insurance Institute. So I'm going to learn a little bit more about that marketplace. I mean, I understand about later life lending and I understand about care fees and all that. But how do we plan for it? What are the issues behind it? So quite interesting, isn't it? So that's a Persil for you, which is how we ensure we explore all clients' needs. Now, as a mortgage advisor, it might not interest you. Obviously, for an exam, it will do. But if you're a mortgage advisor and you're fact finding, don't forget about these needs, because you can make referrals. And you can make money from this as well. And you should make referrals because it's the right thing to do. So you could refer to an IFA, for example, if you spot that your client has investment needs, maybe retirement planning needs. Refer on to an IFA, get a little setup going with some local IFAs. You can earn finder's fees as well, some introductory fees for this type of business. A lot of our IFAs are very, very busy anyway, and they probably won't do that, but it's something to think about. You can refer to solicitors and accountants possibly for some aspects around savings and things like that. You can refer to will writers, later life lending will writers and powers of attorney people that create these things for you. So you can certainly refer people, I think, and you can refer to various professionals for a fee. I think is the key one, because that's the way the world works. So that's personal. Hope you found that useful. Bye. All right. Okay. So let's pop back over here. Just a couple of little topics for you. Remember, this is all about CPD for you. It's about ensuring your exams are up to date, or if you're studying for your exams, this kind of information helps you along the way, because we're updating all our material. We're doing some work on our podcasts at the moment. I'm doing one on Saturday on collectives. In other words, I'm talking about unit trusts and OICs and those sort of things, because a lot of mortgage advisors don't tend to deal with that. So we're doing a quick podcast on that one. And I put together this little summary of all the different types of collectives. I thought you might find quite useful, actually, because, well, I think you might. So I'm going to head over to the other whiteboard, which is over there. So hold on, I'm coming over. I've arrived at this whiteboard. This is the studio here. You've got whiteboards all over the place, cameras everywhere. Now, this one is entitled Types of Collectives. Now, collectives, if you think about the word, is an investment, but we're trying to avoid the problems of investing money, and that is to have, you need a lot of money to do it, you need a lot of expertise to do it, you need to have access to stockbrokers and apps and things. It costs money, there's charges involved. So doing it on your own with one company, for example, one or two companies, is a hard thing to do. So people have chosen collectives in order to pool your money with other people's money, and this great big sum of money can then be used to buy stocks and shares and things like that, fixed interest funds. So what is a collective? Well, many years ago, when I was a traveling trainer, I do most of my work in the studio now. Life changes, isn't it? As a traveling trainer, my job was to travel around the country doing training all over the place, and I often used to be gone for the whole week. And one evening on a Friday, I got home, and my kids were very young at the time. And I arrived home, very tired I was, so I went to bed. The following morning, I woke up quite early, actually, and I came downstairs for breakfast, and I thought, well, let's go into the cupboard and get some cereal. I just wanted a quick breakfast, And I went into the cupboard where the cereal's kept, and I couldn't find a packet of cereal that had any amount in them for a decent portion. Every box had tiny little dribbles of it. So Sugar Puffs had a little bit at the bottom, the cornflakes had a little bit at the bottom, the Rice Krispies had a little bit at the bottom, the granola had a little bit at the bottom, the sugar toasted, frosty, crunchy things had a little bit at the bottom as well, Weetabix. There wasn't enough there for me to have a bowl of one cereal, because the kids, being kids, got to the bottom of the box and couldn't be bothered to throw it away, could they? They just put it back in the cupboard. So I thought I'll have a little go here. So I got a mixing bowl out. and I got all the boxes. And there were about 10 or 12 boxes of cereal in that cupboard. I poured all the remnants of these cereals into this big bowl. So as you can imagine, just looking at the picture here, I had a bowl here with all sorts of cereal in it, and I mixed it around with a decent spoon, to give it a dry spoon, of course. Mix it around. It's all dry cereal, and I stirred it around so the sugar puffs were mixed in with the cocoa pops, which were mixed in with the cornflakes, and it was very colourful, and it didn't look particularly appetizing. But I thought, well, I'm going to have a bowl of this. So I took out a bowl and I poured the milk in, and I thought I'd have some of that. It was nice. Anyway, Bethan came down from first and said, "What's for breakfast, Dad?" Expecting it delivered on a plate, And I said, "Oh, I've got special cereal for you. Sit down and I'll serve you." And so I got her a bowl. I poured the cereal in the bowl. This thing looked great. But when you put the milk in, the colour of the milk, it kind of turned a grey browny colour. Anyway, it was great. And Bethan's going, "Ew, I can't eat that, Dad." But she tried it. She tried eating it. And she said it was delicious. Bit of sugar on it. It was delicious. So what's the moral of that story? Well, the moral of the story is that bowl of cereal was a little bit like a unit in one of these collectives, or bit of one of these collectives. Remember, a collective is about you putting all your money into a big pool, loads of other people's money as well, and you buy little units or bits of that pooled investment. Now, each bit or each unit of that pooled investment consists of every single share fixed interest that's been bought by the fund managers. Now, that bowl of cereal contained 12 or 13 different cereals. So it's a bit like a unit, really, because inside there you get bits of cornflakes there, some Rice Krispies there, some Cocoa Pops there, a bit of Weetabix over there as well, maybe a bit of porridge or something, all mixed together. So one mouthful of that allowed you to consume every single cereal in the cupboard. And that's what a unit is in a collective. It's tiny things, units, because each one contains tiny bits of every investment that's under the hood there, which is a great way of balancing your risk. So let's have a look at these things. Well, first of all, people nowadays use platforms to invest in collectives. A platform is a computerized dashboard run by companies like Hargreaves Lansdown, Vanguard, people like that, which allows the customer to see at a glance exactly all the investments they've got. So that's what the platform is. And broadly speaking, there's 4 types, get a bit technical now, 4 types of collective. The first type is what they call corporate ones. Then you've got trusts. Then you've got life assurance. So I'll put that in there as well. And the final one, which I've put together, really, are synthetics. Now, synthetics, of course, is where we create something out of nothing. So drugs, of course, have been synthesized for years, haven't they? Plant-based medicines have been synthesized in drugs. They're called synthetics. They're man-made, effectively. So I want to put that one in there because that's a new kid on the block when it comes to CMAT 1. Now, the corporate side, the collectives there, well, the first one are investment trusts. Now, an investment trust is a company in its own right that invests in shares. So it's a company and it issues shares like all companies do. And you buy shares in that company. Now, that investment trust company has money, which it then uses to invest in other company shares. So you might, for example, have Scottish Investment Trust or Aberdeen, Japan. An Aberdeen, Japan Investment Trust is a company, so you buy shares in that. And Aberdeen, Japan invests in companies in Japan because that's what they do, and they do it very well. So that's the first one, investment trusts. You've got OICs, open-ended investment companies. Again, investment companies, they're corporate. They're run by corporates, effectively. Corporate stature, that's the whole point. Open-ended investment company is new kid on the block from unit trusts. It invests in other shares and other instruments, fixed interest, and again, you buy shares in that as well. It's not investment trust; it's open-ended. It's a fund, effectively. It's not a company in its own right. Then you've got trusts. Now, the big trust, of course, is unit trusts. There you go. Let's put unit trust in there. Now, unit trusts are a bit old-fashioned now. Most have been transferred to OICs. Unit trusts are run by trustees. They have a trust deed, and obviously the fund managers manage them, and they're owned by fund management companies, but they're unit trusts run by a trust deed, effectively run by trustees, and you buy units in the fund. but they've been pretty much taken over by OICs. Then you've got life assurance. Now, people forget about life assurance. IFAs do anyway, because of RDR. Killed them, really, because life assurance-based investments used to pay good commission, but IFAs aren't allowed to receive commission on investment advice anymore, so very few people get involved in these things. Now, the first one is bonds. Now, you often get these things for inheritance tax purposes. You can get discounted gift trusts, that sort of thing, putting a bond into trust, because you can put life insurance into trust, so you can put your investment into trust effectively. So it's a way of avoiding inheritance tax. Jolly good way of doing it. So bonds have their use there, but they're run by life insurance companies. You buy them through insurance companies. So the fund managers are employed by the insurance company, but they are bonds. They are lump sum investments into bonds. The other type, of course, are regular ones, such as endowments, which we don't see anymore, do we? Endowment policies. You can have 10-year endowments, that sort of thing. Now, they're regular premium investments into a life assurance fund. So it's the same kind of concept, really. And you can have with profits and unit linking and all those things. But we talk about that more in detail. Now, the last one, synthetics. I'm going to call that ETFs. I'm going to put ETFs in there. Now, ETFs, exchange traded funds. New to the syllabus, really. A lot of people use these exchange traded funds rather than invest in shares in whatever fund you want, like Japan fund or whatever. You actually follow a index like a FTSE 250 shares in the UK stock exchange, or you might follow an index of tech firms or an index of energy firms. And what the ETF does is it doesn't actually invest, well, the synthetic ones, doesn't actually invest in the shares. It gives you a return based upon that particular index. So it's passive. It's not actively run. It just follows the index, but it uses derivatives and swaps and things to give you the same kind of return that index would have given you. So it's quite a clever little thing, really, ETFs. So that's a new kid on the block, really. Now, a few other concepts, of course, you've come across before. Don't forget passive versus active. When it comes to funds, passive versus active. You may have heard that phrase before. A lot of people now do DIY investing. So passive is very much DIY. DIY versus advisor is the other one for you. This is where you either have a financial advisor who gives you advice on the various products within your platform. So my IFA, for example, uses an Aegon platform, which they have all sorts of insurances and bonds and unit trusts that I use, plus my pensions go in there as well. Now, I use my financial advisor for that one, but now I've moved over to DIY investing. I use Vanguard's platforms. I do it myself because I kind of know what I'm doing. But that's something to think about. But passive versus active, this is the key one. If it's a passive investment, it means that there's no human doing any decisions to try and beat the stock market or beat the index. They're using algorithms and computer programs to just match an index, really. So ETFs are all passive, as you'd appreciate. You can have unit trusts, which invests in passive funds as well, where there's no managers behind the scenes, and therefore they just follow what the FTSE 250 is doing or follow what the Nasdaq is doing. The argument is that very few people actually beat the market. Stock pickers. Now, active investment is where you have fund managers, she's, they all make decisions about what's bought and what's sold. People, experts in their field, and they try to beat the stock market, which is a pretty cool thing to do, isn't it? And every week you read about fund managers who've exceeded the stock market by hundreds of percents, and they end up hedge funding and making a fortune. But of course, you've got to pay for that, which is the last point to make. Fees. Everything comes with a cost. And Consumer Duty is putting the microscope on fees at the moment, for value for money kind of thing. And I've heard a few investment firms now reducing their fees just a little bit, here and there, because maybe they didn't think it gave value for money. Because the fees are fairly frothy on this stuff. You never see a poor fund manager or a poor IFA. The fees are quite frothy, but they do a great job because they look after people's investments. Of course they do. But passive investments is much cheaper because it's a computer you're paying for, a computer program, rather than an active fund manager. So think about fees as things move forward. And the last point, of course, is ISAs. Let's put that over here. An ISA in its own right is probably closer to a platform than an actual investment. A lot of people think an ISA is an investment. It's not. An ISA is a wrapper. It's actually probably better called a platform, because the ISA itself invests in various things here. You can put all of these into an ISA if you wanted to. And it makes it tax free. How cool is that? 20 grand a year as well. So there's quite a lot going on there with ISAs. Everyone should start with ISAs. And we're talking about equity ISAs here, not cash ISAs. They're very different things. So I think that's a lovely little overview of collectives. I hope you like my cereal analogy. I eat porridge now because it's good for your body. I don't eat cornflakes and sugar coated Rice Krispies, and Frosties were the loveliest things ever, weren't they? Frosties, as Tony said, they're great, said Tony. I remember that commercial from the 80s. But Frosties were gorgeous, but so full of sugar. Unbelievable what they did to your teeth as a kid. So that's collectives. Hope that's been useful. Bye. All right. Okay. All right, let's wrap up, shall we? Because we've been running for quite a lot longer than I anticipated, actually. Enjoy your week. Hope all's good with you. Hope everything's working well in your business, whatever your business is. If you're watching this on video or you're listening to the podcast, I hope all is good with you. Remember, if you want to shout out next week, why not? Just email me and I'll give some names out on the air. Just a bit of fun, really. Bit of exposure. There's nothing wrong with exposure when it comes to marketing. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. We're busy updating everything here. I've got a podcast on Saturday, as I mentioned to you, on the CMAT 1. We're looking at collectives. So if you can join me, get on our mailing list. We talk about this a lot, don't we? There's our mailing list for you, which I show you every time. So get on there, scan that, get on our mailing list, or our member list, as we prefer to call it. And we'd love to see you on there, and we'll keep you informed of all the stuff we're doing for free as well. So other than that, I'll see you all next week. Have fun in the sun, as they say. Enjoy yourselves, and catch you next week.